Well, welcome back to another Way Nice Photo, and this video is about the Lumix S5. Yes, I bought one. Canon guy bought a Panasonic camera, and obviously the reason is because the Panasonic cameras are more suited to anamorphic lenses. Now, rumor has it that there's going to be a Canon update, and they're going to put anamorphic squeeze into the Canon cameras, and that's supposed to be coming out in December. So that is something that we can look forward to, and that'll be great for me because it will mean my cameras are more usable across my whole lens. But let's just get on to this little baby here, and as we can see, it's a Lumix camera. It's the S5ii, and I've got an anamorphic lens on it, and I've got a dumb adapter. Now the dumb adapter, I'll put the details down below, so you can get that if you want to get it for the Lumix. It's very, very cheap. I paid $40 AUD, which is probably about 25 bucks US. Very, very cheap. It has no electronic connections in, so you can't use any lenses that have electronic connections with the EF mount. But this one goes from the L mount to the EF mount. Then I've got the lens on. Now that's the 65mm we've got on this camera right now. I've got the 45mm on my Canon R3 right now, and this little baby here, this little kit, is about 1.7 kilos. Now that's like insane light for a anamorphic rig. So you got the camera, you got the the dumb adapter, and the 65mm lens. The 45mm will be slightly lighter. Haven't got a ND filter on, but obviously that doesn't add much weight to it. So you're around about 1.7 kilos with the whole kit ready to film, ready to go. This camera here, I use the anamorphic stabilisation in it, and I'm shooting in Vlog, and I set it to 422 1080p at 50 frames per second, and I drop it into a 50 frames per second timeline, exactly the same as this video you're watching now. I prefer the 50 frames per second. I think it also makes the anamorphic lenses look a little bit more crisper. You don't get as much motion blur. Anyway, so got this camera just last weekend, so it's like brand new to me, and I wanted to see what it could do. So I had a first outing, and what that first outing was, it was a dinner night that I'd had arranged for some months. And it's at a place that's about 130 kilometers away from Perth, in a little town called New Norcia, which is where these Benedictine monks established over 150 years ago. And they developed some schools, Catholic monks, Benedictine Catholic monks, and they have a number of these buildings. And one of the buildings is the hostel that was built for I think it's the Belgian Queen or Dutch Queen coming to Australia, but she never turned up. But they built this fantastic building, and that's where we had the meal, the dinner, which you'll see in the video when I play it. And it was all shot on this Lumix S5 in that format, which is 422, 1080p, 50 frames per second, Vlog. And I must admit, I was really happy with the performance of this camera. And I even shot at 12,800 ISO, which really, this camera has no claim to fame about being a high ISO camera like the R3 or the Sonys have, where they can really crank out those high ISOs and still give a really nice picture. But I thought I'd try it. I'd push the camera, see how good it is. And you'll see in the video that the shots that were done at the table, which is my girlfriend, Emina, and also the plates of food, they were all shot at 12,800. And I feel that that was very usable at that ISO. So I really pushed the camera. The camera delivered. So I was very, very happy. The Vlog is very easy to grade. If I was comparing this camera here with my Canon R3, which is, I shoot on my Canons in all eye, so it's a bit more of a more dense compression than the Lumix. The Lumix is about half the megabits per second compared to the images that I get out of the R3 with the same format. Now, the Canons the R3s anyway, not my EOS R, that's an 8-bit, that's not quite as good. But the R3s, you can pull the highlights down and recover them quite a lot. With the Lumix camera, the highlight recovery is not as good. You tend to sort of fall off a cliff, like it gets lost if you overexpose it. And you do need to expose the Lumix camera a little bit lower. You can expose the Canon's a bit brighter, so you get a bit more recovery. With the Lumix, you can't do that. You clip your highlights. But if you expose it right, not quite as high, and you put your LUTs on, it's very easy to grade. It has a beautiful, the color science in the Lumix is really nice. It comes up very, very easy, whilst the Canon C-Log 3 needs a bit more work to get it to look the way I want it to look. But so it's got its pros and cons. The Canon R3 has a bit of highlight recovery. The Panasonic Lumix S5ii grades easier. So I was very impressed with the camera and the way it came out. The one thing I have noticed with the anamorphic on the IBIS anamorphic, you do need to be a little bit careful. If you sort of move the camera a little bit quickly, it kind of gets a bit of the wobbles like this, and it's kind of not nice. So you've got to be a little bit gentle with it. I'm shooting off a monopod, so that's how I shoot. But overall, very impressed with this camera. At this price point of this camera, I can buy literally two cameras for the R3, and the same thing with the R5 II. I could buy two of these Panasonic Lumixes for the price of an R5 II. So at the price point that this camera sits at, you just can't go wrong. The higher frame rates at 100, I haven't really checked that out because I've only just used it for one outing. So I will be doing a more comprehensive breakdown of this camera for video with the anamorphic lenses on, and I will get back to you with more detailed information, what I think about this camera and how it works with the anamorphic lenses. Now, so far so good. I'm not really interested in using this as a stills camera. I just want it as a lightweight anamorphic beast. And I did actually go for the S9 first, but when I got it home and started to work with it a little bit, I wasn't too happy with it, and I actually returned it and paid the extra for this camera. And I would recommend that if you're looking at the Lumix cameras, don't get the S9 if you're going to use it for any sort of pro work, any jobs. I would definitely get this camera. The build quality of the S5 II is significantly better than the S9. And this camera here, the buttons and everything just feel more premium. And I think this camera would last a lot longer. It's got the 2 card slots in the side, so you can have backup. It's more of a pro body than the S9. The S9 image looks the same. It can produce a very, very good image, but I just think the general quality of the camera is not up to what this one is. So that's it, guys, for the S5 Blazar Remus combo with the dumb adapter, which I think is called a K&L. Yeah, here it is. No, K&F. It's a K&F concept adapter, cheap as chips. So does the jobs great. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the outing I did with this camera, and I've got a little video. It's only a minute long, so watch it and you'll be able to see some of the footage coming out of this camera. It was the 2 lenses used with 100mm and the 45mm. I did use a diopter on the 45mm when I took the shots at the table and of my girlfriend sitting at the table, Emina. The diopter was a +2, and you'll see the waterfall effect in the background is like really strong. You may like that, you may not like that. But what is significant, if we're talking about the camera, is that's when I had it at 12,800 ISO. So if you're interested in the low light performance of this Lumix camera, that's the shot you want to have a close look at. All the others were just done at your normal type of ISOs, 4,000, 640, and I used ND filter to expose that lens. Anyway, guys, here it is. Enjoy, and I will catch you next video.